Sharif, it's Ross Tucker. Really appreciate your time. And it's just amazing to me to look at you playing 13 years and to think that Kobe played 7 more years. How impressed are you just with the fact that he was able to play NBA basketball for 20 seasons?
I don't know, impressive is the right word. I'm probably jealous, but just awesome. Awesome. I mean, you got to add into, say my 13 years or a regular 13 or 14-year career and, all the playoff runs and deep playoff runs, finals and that sort of thing that he also, wear and tear on the body that he had. And to be able to, relatively until, the last few years, injury-free and that sort of stuff and not miss a ton of games. But just the consistency to play at a really, really high level, and then to go out, just in an amazing way. You probably couldn't, picture that. Just awesome. I sat and watched the second half of the game with my son last night, and to see him, who probably really doesn't care and appreciate the full body of work, just go crazy watching Kobe finish that game, just says a lot about the way he performs and the way he approached the game.
As a guy that played 13 years, how impressive in particular, Sharif, was that fourth quarter? Because I thought, I'm not an NBA guy, but I thought Utah was playing pretty good D. I thought a lot of those were contested shots, and they needed every one of them to win the game.
Extremely impressive. Extremely, I guess you see the mental toughness and the physical toughness and the passion that allows him to have the kind of career that he did. Because it was a real gut check. You could see he was laboring and he was tired, but he figured out a way to, as he did a lot throughout his career. I think that was just, fitting that he was able to, kind of finish the game that way and have that sort of game. And again, like you said, all of the points that he scored, they were meaningful points.
Talking with Sharif Abdur-Rahim, he was the 3rd overall pick back in that 1996 draft when the Hornets drafted Kobe Bryant and then traded him to the Lakers. Not the finest move in Hornets franchise history, to say the least. Sharif, every time I hear an NBA guy, they talk about how impressive it is that certain guys get as many shots as they do because it's tough to get shots off. To the layperson who looks at Kobe having 50 shots and just thinks he was gunning, why is it impressive to you how many shots certain guys can get off at times?
Well, I think in a sense like he was gunning. Like that's what, like last night, I think he said that at the end, right? Like it was the one time it was okay for him to gun. But I think the thing that you have to keep in perspective, one, not a lot of guys that, like you said, can get the number of shots off that he can. They couldn't even, create space and get up over guys and, have the creativity to take shots like that. But also, sometimes just in competition and competing, like your team, they needed him to take them shots. At least the ones in the second half, they needed him to take all of those shots. And, I guess in a pure basketball sense, and you want everybody to be involved, you want other guys to touch it a little bit more. But looking at their roster, I don't know who else could, take those sort of shots, could get their own shots the way that he can. He really is probably still their best, player. So, you have to keep that in perspective. 50 shots is a lot of shots, but the thing that makes it, okay, I think, one is his last game, and then two, like the shots he made were all shots that you needed down the stretch, and they won the game.
How much did you know about him, Sharif, back in '96 when you guys were drafted, and what did you think about a guy going right to the NBA from high school back then?
Well, so in high school, I was a year ahead of him. So we played against each other in the different like shoes, the sneaker All-American kits and stuff. So at that time it was ABCD. So like he was there. I was going into my senior year of high school. He was going into his junior year. So like I remember him. I remember being at campus, seeing him, and he was, regardless of the class you were in, the age, he was really, really good. He kept up like with the older guys. Like going from high school to the NBA was like at that time was really a new thing. I think the year before, Kevin Garnett was in the same high school class as I was. He did it, and like I remember, being around. Like we just thought he was crazy. And, a couple of guys did it that next year, in that draft that I was in. I think it was Kobe and Jermaine did it. But I just think, even NBA folks, they didn't think that, guys were, prepared at such a young age to play in the NBA. Obviously guys like Kevin and Kobe and Jermaine O'Neal made NBA folks think a little differently. From the way they performed and even performed at a young age. But, it was just such a new kind of phenomenon at the time that, you didn't know what to expect, but you knew he was, you knew he was, he was really, really talented. He was really good. I can remember being young and playing in like Magic's, it was after our rookie year playing in when Magic did his like all-star game still in LA, and watching him and Penny, they kind of got in a thing where they were going back and forth with each other. And, at this point, like Penny was the senior, he was the guy. And in that exchange, you wouldn't have known. Like it was, so, he always had that competitive spirit, always wanted to compete, always wanted to show what he could do. So, the success and, that part of it, you can never kind of plan out or dream out that a guy even, will have the level of success he's had, but, he was always kind of driven that way and talented enough to do the things that he's done.
Talking with Sharif Abdur-Rahim, he was the number 3 overall pick back in 1996 when Kobe Bryant was drafted by the Hornets, came out of high school. Let's talk Warriors a little bit, Sharif. What's more impressive to you? Steph going for over 400 three-pointers, or for them getting 73 wins?
Without a doubt, there's 73 wins. I mean, that's, you went the grueling nature of an NBA season and to go through an NBA season and, lose, 9 games. That's, that's a heck of a season. That's extremely impressive. And I think, even, what makes it even more impressive is the way they had to do it down the stretch. They put themselves in a situation where, I watched the fourth quarter of the game in Memphis, like they had to win that game. They had to make plays. They had to get stops. A lot of stuff, that wasn't a blowout. Nobody, was laying down for them. And then in San Antonio, you had 2 teams that were really playing for something. So, it was, the way they did it was really impressive. I think the 403 is hard to even put in context because I can't think of anyone, at least during the time that I've been connected to the NBA or paying attention to basketball that did anything close to that. So that's hard to put into context, and that's special. But the 73 wins, I'm sure he'll say is the more impressive statistic.
Sharif, really appreciate the time and putting some perspective into a guy that's a fellow member of the 1996 draft class. Thanks so much for coming on the Dan Patrick Show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, there he is, Sharif Abdur-Rahim.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.